Ash coated the streets of Kesselin Prime like a memory that refused to fade. It clung to the gutters, the walls, the boots of soldiers too weary to notice. Above, the sky bore the weight of perpetual twilight, sunlight strangled by industrial haze and the aftermath of orbital bombardments long past. Every breath tasted of rust, and silence ruled where once children had laughed. Amara knew these streets too well. Her steps were soundless as she moved through the alley behind the ration depot, her coat pulled tight, hood low. She was careful, not from fear, but necessity. On Kesselin Prime, hope had become contraband. One wrong glance, one flicker of defiance, and a name would vanish from the registry. People didn't die here. They disappeared. At 17, Amara had learned not to ask where they went. She paused at a crumbling wall, pressed a chipped sensor against a barely visible seam. It pulsed green, and a hidden door unlatched with a soft sigh. She slipped through and descended into darkness. The tunnel was narrow, lined with ancient conduit pipes and the faint smell of oil and ozone. 50 meters in, she found the node, a flickering terminal jury-rigged into the broken frame of an old cleaning bot. She wiped grime from the screen, then pulled a battered drive from her satchel. Upload, she whispered. Lines of encrypted code blinked to life. Surveillance footage, military orders, names of collaborators, coordinates of outposts, all stolen from the Empire's own systems. She didn't know who would see it. Maybe no one. Maybe too many. But truth, once loosed, had a habit of finding a way. A soft footfall echoed behind her. She didn't flinch. "I told you it's not safe to keep coming here," said Kara, voice sharp with concern. Amara turned. Kara was taller, older, with a jagged scar across her left cheek and eyes that missed nothing. She wore scavenged armor beneath her cloak, its seams patched a dozen times. A rifle hung across her back, not imperial issue. Too old, too loud, but in the right hands, lethal. "I wasn't followed," Amara replied. "You can't be sure." "I'm sure." Kara sighed and leaned against the tunnel wall. "What did you get this time?" "Direct orders from Marshal Rivik. He's planning another purge, Sector 9 this time." Kara's jaw clenched. "They just cleared Sector 7 last month." "I know." There was a pause, thick with unspoken grief. Amara had grown up in Sector 9. Her sister had played in its courtyards before they were turned into staging zones for mechs and patrols. "I need you to stop," Kara said quietly. Amara stared. "What?" "You're too important now. Everyone knows who you are. The girl who leaked the Eris massacre. The voice on the outlaw channels. If they catch you, they won't. That's not the point." Amara crossed her arms. "Then what is?" Kara pushed off the wall, stepped closer. "You become a symbol. People are ready to fight, but not if they think they'll lose their heart before it even begins. You want to win? Then survive long enough to matter." Amara didn't answer immediately. Her fingers hovered over the terminal, watching as the upload completed. She remembered her sister's hands, small and dirty, clutching a ration bar like it was treasure. She remembered the screams that followed the drone sweep through the playground, and the silence after. "I didn't ask to be a symbol," she said at last. "No one does." Amara pulled the drive free and slipped it into her coat. "But I'll keep going, until someone listens." Kara didn't argue. Instead, she nodded once. "Then let's make sure you live long enough to be heard." They returned topside beneath the cover of smoke drifting in from the refineries. Sirens howled in the distance. Another raid. Another neighborhood crushed under suspicion. The Empire didn't need reasons anymore. Just targets. Amara watched as 2 enforcer droids dragged a boy no older than 12 from a storefront. His mother pleaded with a soldier, face red and streaked with tears. The soldier didn't speak. Just turned away. Kara grabbed Amara's wrist before she could move. "Don't," she said. Amara's nails dug into her palm. She didn't speak. The boy's screams echoed long after they disappeared around the corner. They made their way to an abandoned rail station deep in the transit zone. The walls were scorched black, signs half melted, rails twisted from a past explosion no one talked about anymore. But inside, behind layers of camouflage debris, resistance lived. Dax stood at the center of it all, arms crossed, brow furrowed. He was lean, with quick hands and quicker words. His mind worked like a machine, efficient, relentless. Where Kara was caution, Dax was momentum. Together, they kept the resistance breathing. "You're late," he said as they entered. "Didn't know we were on a clock," Amara replied. "Every second we're not moving is another the Empire spends consolidating. They're getting wise to our routes. We lost 3 runners yesterday." Kara leaned against a rusted beam. "Any progress on comm relay hijacks?" Dax nodded, gesturing to a tangle of wires and transmitters. "We've cracked the Tier 2 encryption. We're close to pushing our next broadcast across the orbital relays." "Good," Amara said. "Make it big. They need to see what's coming." "They will," Dax said. Then, more softly, "But we can't keep surviving on data leaks and go signals. We need a win. Something real. Something people can point to and say, 'That's the moment it changed.'" Kara raised an eyebrow. "You volunteering?" Dax smirked. "No. I was thinking of her." All eyes turned to Amara. She didn't flinch. "What's the target?" she asked. Dax tapped a holoscreen. A map unfolded. Military grids, patrol paths, underground transport lines. "This," he said, highlighting a tower complex on the eastern edge. "The Reconciliation Center." Amara stared. "That's a prison. More than that. It's where they send the dissenters they want to forget. No trial. No release. Just disappearance. You break into that. Set them free. You don't just humiliate the Empire. You tear out a piece of its machinery." Kara exhaled slowly. "You're serious?" Dax nodded. "No one's ever gotten out of that place alive," Kara said. "No one's ever gotten in," Dax replied. Yet, Amara stepped closer to the display. The tower loomed like a Fong, surrounded by electrified walls, drone nests, and sniper perches. Beneath it stretched a subterranean labyrinth connected to the power grid and service infrastructure. "What's the plan?" she asked. Dax smiled faintly. "We're working on it." Amara looked at him, then at Kara, then back at the map. "I'll do it," she said. Silence stretched. A dramatic sci-fi scene in a futuristic arena filled with spectators. A powerful, sleek, black alien or robot warrior is holding a wounded human girl by the throat, lifting her off the ground. The girl is wearing torn, rugged clothes and looks defiant even in pain. The background features high-tech holographic displays and a massive crowd watching intensely. Cinematic lighting, dust rising from the ground. The tunnels beneath Kesselin Prime, grown with age, carved by ancient drilling crawlers long before the Empire's arrival. They had since become arteries for smugglers, outlaws, and now, rebels. Dax Ren moved with disciplined silence, his breath controlled, footfalls deliberate. Behind him, Amara followed, wrapped in an oversized cloak that brushed the damp stone floor. The only light came from Dax's dim shoulder lamp, its beam slicing through the gloom in narrow arcs. "We're close," he whispered. Amara didn't answer. Her face had changed since the rescue. Not softer, but harder. Her eyes no longer scanned the dark with fear, but with purpose. Every shadow was a challenge. Every sound a potential test. The child who once trembled on her knees before the galaxy now stood at the edge of something larger than vengeance. They stopped at a rusted hatch embedded in a wall of crumbling alloy. Dax tapped a rhythm against the surface, an old signal, almost forgotten. There was a pause, then a low whine as ancient hydraulics hissed. The hatch opened. Inside, 4 figures stood under flickering lights. They were lean, scarred, and heavily armed. Men and women who had once commanded units, piloted gunships, cracked enemy codes. One of them stepped forward, tall, olive-skinned, with a network of burned scars across her throat and collarbone. "Dax," she rasped, voice half-broken. "Kara." He clasped her forearm. "You got the signal?" Holnet lit up when that feed dropped. "I thought you were dead." "Not yet." Her gaze shifted to Amara. "That her?" The girl stepped forward, chin lifted. "You're the spark," Kara said. "You understand what you've done." Amara nodded. "I didn't mean to be a symbol." "No one ever does," Kara replied. "But symbols are how we win." They moved deeper into the safe house, a half-collapsed engineering bay sealed off from surface scans. A cracked holodeble sat in the center, projecting a ghostly map of the planet's underbelly. Red dots pulsed where Imperial patrols had scoured tunnels in the past week. Blue streaks marked safe routes, though fewer remained each day. "Surveillance nets are tightening," said one of the men, flipping through data scrolls. "The Empire's deploying seekers, ground-penetrating drones, multi-spectrum sensors. If we stay in one place too long, they'll find us. Then we don't stay," Dax said. "We move. Hit them again. Show them we're still breathing." "That's not a strategy," the man argued. "That's suicide." Dax turned to him, eyes steady. "If it buys time to spread the message, it's worth it." Amara watched them all. The tension, the fear cloaked in bravado, the barely suppressed trauma leaking out in sharp tones and clipped speech. She could see what Dax had already understood. This rebellion wasn't built on strength. It was built on desperation. "I can help," she said suddenly. "They think I'm dead, but I'm not. Use that. Make it work for you." Silence. Then Kara leaned forward. "You have something in mind?" "I know how they think now," Amara said. "I know how they broadcast, how they stage fear. What if we hijack the next one?" "The next execution?" Kara asked. "They'll be ready. Armored, fortified. Not if they think it's real," Amara said. "Let them believe they're in control, then take it from them live." It was a bold idea. Risky, bordering on madness. And no one dismissed it. Because deep down, they needed more than tactics. They needed belief. Kara turned to Dax. "Can you pull it off?" "I'll need a small team. Infiltration gear. And a distraction big enough to cover our exfil." "Done. Then we go tomorrow." He turned to Amara. "You don't come." "Yes, I do. It's not your fight." "It is now." They stared at each other, warrior and child, each carrying a weight the other could barely comprehend. Finally, Dax nodded. Preparation consumed the next 20 hours. Old comm links were restored. Power cells scavenged. Armor plates retrofitted to ancient designs. Kara's crew, though few, worked with clockwork precision, fueled by rage and purpose in equal measure. Amara studied the old systems, memorizing flowcharts of imperial routines. Dax taught her how to move with a soldier's quiet, how to step, how to breathe, how to vanish when the world stared straight at you. "You don't fight them head on," he said. "You make them trip. You make them bleed from their own weight." "You ever regret it?" she asked. "The killing?" "No. The surviving." Dax paused. "Sometimes. But not now." When they moved, it was through service shafts and flooded conduits. The city above buzzed with aircraft and security drones, the Empire's paranoia blooming like rot. Their target was a live broadcast execution platform built atop the ruins of a library, a symbolic insult the Empire favored. The condemned were to be a group of teachers arrested in Sector 12. No charges, no trial, just a lesson. Dax, Kara, and Amara took position on the upper scaffolds hours before the feed. Hidden in plain sight, disguised as repair crew. Their weapons were concealed, their movements minimal. Below, the crowd began to gather. 4 citizens herded in by armed sentries. The condemned were led to the stage. The executioner raised his blade, and the cameras came online. In the control tower, the feed operator checked diagnostics. All systems green. He tapped the broadcast trigger, and nothing happened. The screens across the city flickered, then went black. 7 seconds. And then Amara appeared. Her face, older now in posture if not years, filled the frame. The background was a shattered imperial crest, burning slowly. "You took my voice," she said, "but I found another." The footage cut to the teachers, alive, safe, escorted away by masked figures. The crowd below erupted. Some screamed in terror, others in joy. The guards hesitated. That hesitation was all it took. Kara's team triggered charges in 2 towers, collapsing the surveillance grid. Smoke poured into the square. Chaos swallowed order. Citizens surged. Drones fell. Dax and Amara fled through the chaos, slipping into side alleys as alarms shrieked across the district. Behind them, the entire sector spiraled into uprising. For the first time, the people fought back, not because they believed they could win, but because hope had returned. They regrouped in a subterranean chamber 5 kilometers away. Sweat and soot clung to their skin. The adrenaline hadn't faded, but exhaustion sat just beneath the surface. "You okay?" Dax asked. Amara nodded. "They won't forget this. They'll come harder now." Then we hit harder. Kara joined them, limping from shrapnel. She grinned despite the blood on her brow. "We got volunteers coming in from 4 other sectors. Civilians. Discharged grunts. Even a few ex-imperials." Dax exhaled. That fast. They were waiting. They just needed proof. And Amara was that proof. Not an icon. Not a martyr. A reminder that defiance, when visible, is contagious. Far above, in an orbital command station, an Imperial admiral watched the footage with clenched fists. "Scrub all records," he barked. This never happened. But it had, and it would again, because something irreversible had begun. Not a war. A reckoning. Rain slicked the broken roofs of Sector 12, turning ash into sludge. From above, the city looked like a bruise, dark and pulsing, with pockets of angry light erupting in uneven bursts. Sirens sang their endless refrain, echoing down the alleys like some mournful hymn to lost order. The Empire had tightened its grip. Patrols now moved in 3s. Checkpoints had doubled. Drone swarms scoured rooftops and storm drains alike. But beneath it all, the resistance thrived. Dax crouched near the mouth of a ruined atrium, peering through cracked lenses at the gathering ahead. It was a recruitment event. Imperial youth, barely old enough to shave, were being paraded in new uniforms. Fresh propaganda blared from Vox speakers overhead. "They want to make martyrs of children now," Kara muttered beside him. "They always did," Dax said. "They just got better at smiling when they do it." Beside them, Amara adjusted her gear. The rebel tunic she wore was a far cry from the rag she'd escaped in. She moved with increasing precision now, her every gesture compact, meaningful. Her face bore a new edge, less anger, more control. "You sure about this one?" Dax asked her. She nodded. "They use me to pacify the young. I want them to see the lie for what it is." The plan was simple in theory, savage in execution. Hijack the rally's comm tower, broadcast live footage of liberated sectors, and trigger a secondary explosion near the Imperial speakers. The message: your grip is slipping. Even your children know it. Dax handed Amara the detonator. 10-second delay once you punch it. After that, everything goes sideways. "I know," she said. "I want it to." She moved into the open before either could stop her. Kara hissed. "What the hell is she?" "Let her," Dax said. "She needs to do it her way." Amara walked calmly toward the stage. Her hood was drawn low, but not enough to hide her entirely. A few faces turned. Recognition flickered in the crowd like dying embers suddenly rekindled. She stepped onto the dais. The young cadet stiffened. One of them, a tall boy with wide shoulders, moved to intercept her. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. His voice cracked slightly under the strain of authority. "I was born here," Amara replied. "More than I can say for you." His hand hovered over his comm, her eyes flicked down to it, then back up. He hesitated. In that pause, She stepped past him and reached for the comm terminal. An older officer started toward her, uniform pristine, eyes cold. I don't know what game you think this is. The broadcast came alive. All across the district, the massive rally screens cut from their pre-recorded imperial speeches and flashed to life with real-time footage. Amara's face, her voice. They tried to kill me, she said, calm but cutting. They failed. They tried to erase what I saw. But I remember everything. I remember the camps, the scorched fields, the cries in the dark. And I'm not the only one. The officer reached for his sidearm. She hit the detonator. 10 seconds. The world slowed. Dax and Kara sprang in motion, guns raised. Smoke began pouring from the Vox towers as charges ignited in sequence. The crowd scattered. Cadets yelled, some drawing weapons, others running. Explosions tore through the platforms, knocking speakers off their moorings. A fireball lit the plaza. Through the chaos, Amara slipped back into the crowd, her movements fluid, instinctive. Dax met her halfway and threw his body around hers, shielding her as debris rained down. When the smoke cleared, the dais was in ruins. The screens remained, still playing Amara's message on loop. Not just in Sector 12. Every linked node on the planet had received it. They didn't just hijack a broadcast. They hijacked belief. By nightfall, protests erupted in 8 major cities. In 3 of them, they turned into armed insurrections. Whole garrisons were overwhelmed by citizens wielding stolen weapons and centuries of rage. Rebels weren't ghosts anymore. They had names, faces, voices. And one voice above, all others kept returning. Amaris. Dax watched from a safe-house rooftop as flames lit the distant skyline. We can't hold this pace forever, he said. We don't need to, Kara replied. We just need to crack the myth. Make them bleed where they never expected it. Bleed's one thing, he said. Collapse is another. Amara joined them. Her clothes were stained with soot and ash, but her eyes gleamed. They're scared of me now, she said. They're scared of what you make them see, Kara replied. You remind them that cruelty has an expiration date. They'll come for me harder. Let them. The Imperial Command did exactly that. By morning, bounties have been posted. Entire squads were reassigned to hunt Amara specifically. Misinformation flooded the datasphere, doctored videos, false sightings, even AI-generated death scenes meant to demoralize the public. It only made her more powerful. Because for every lie the Empire told, the rebels countered with truth, raw, unfiltered footage of what remained. The starving, the imprisoned, the burned-out cities. And always, Amara's face. Not as a saint, not as a soldier, but as a survivor who wouldn't be quiet. In response, the Empire sent in the Vorn, their elite covert extermination force. No insignias, no mercy. Within 48 hours, 2 safe houses were wiped off the map. Kara watched the footage in grim silence. They're zeroing in. Let them think they're winning, Dax said. We've got something they don't. Hope. No. A plan. He laid it out. The Capital Transmission Hub sat at the heart of Kesselin Prime's administrative district. It was heavily fortified, but not impenetrable. If they could get a device inside, just one, they could override the planet-wide emergency protocol. A mass broadcast. One signal. Everywhere. All at once. Are you saying we end it? Kara asked. No, he said. I'm saying we start something bigger. Amara didn't hesitate. I'll do it. No, Dax said. You've done enough. I'm the only one who can walk through their checkpoints without flinching. They expect me to run, not to come knocking. Silence. Then Kara nodded. She's right. The night before the op, they camped in an old temple. Long desecrated, its floor scorched by a past purge. Amara sat near the broken altar, the device cradled in her lap. It still feels like I'm pretending, she said. Like I'm just playing a part. Dax joined her, lowering himself slowly. Everyone pretends, but only some of us grow into the role. What if it's not enough? Then we make it enough. She looked at him. Will you be there? Always. They moved at dawn. Amara walked straight through the front gates of the transmission tower, dressed in the uniform of a high-level informant. Kara and Dax moved underground, bypassing biometric scanners through ancient waste tunnels. Each step closer tightened the coil in their chests. Inside, Amara was escorted by 2 guards. She gave the name of a fictitious operative, flashed a fabricated ID chip, and smiled with the cold confidence of someone who'd stood face-to-face with death and didn't blink. The guards waved her through. She reached the central console, pretending to study a control schematic. In her sleeve, the device pulsed. Dax's voice came through the comm. We're in position. Ready on your mark. She stared at the main interface. One button. One broadcast. The culmination of everything they'd risked. She pressed it. The lights dimmed. A siren hooped overhead. And across Kesselin Prime. Every home, every market, every checkpoint. The broadcast began. Images of the fallen. Footage of the atrocities. Testimonies of the forgotten. And Amara's voice narrating. Firm and unwavering. This is who they are. And this is who we can be without them. Alarm screamed. The guards turned, weapons raised. Too late. Kara's charges detonated in the lower levels. Dax breached the tower's sidewall, pulling Amara into the smoke. They ran. The city above was on fire. Not with destruction, but with revolution. And as they vanished into the chaos, Amara looked back once. Not in fear, but in defiance. The signal was sent, and the world would never be quiet again. Ash fell like snow over Kesselin Prime. The sky above the capital burned a sullen orange, cast by the glow of fires too widespread to count. Whole blocks no longer existed, obliterated by rebellion or by the Empire's desperate retaliation. The broadcast Amara triggered had splintered illusion from reality. What once was silence became a roar. Protests swelled into riots. Riots became full-blown insurrection. Entire cities declared themselves independent. And everywhere, a single name fueled the flame: Amara. She stood at the center of a resistance command post deep in the Undercity. The chamber, an old transit hub repurposed into a war room, buzzed with activity. Holograms glowed blue against the walls. Maps updated in real time with shifting troop lines and flashing distress calls. What once was a fringe movement was now an army. Ragged, exhausted, undersupplied, but determined. Dax leaned over a display table, tracing the advance of imperial reinforcements. They've pulled 2 legions from off-world. They're forming a pincer, trying to choke off the spine districts. They're too late, Kara said, arms folded, eyes sharp. Factories there have already fallen. Locals are armoring their own transit haulers. It's turning into a damn land fleet. Still, Dax replied, they'll hammer us where it hurts. Communications, logistics, morale. They're betting we'll fracture without central leadership, Amara said. They're wrong. The room fell quiet as she spoke. Not because of authority. There were no formal ranks here, but because her voice now carried a gravity none could ignore. Amara had changed. Where once stood a survivor, now stood a strategist. The fear that once haunted her eyes had hardened into vision. She moved differently, not arrogantly, but purposefully. She listened more than she spoke. And when she spoke, things happened. The Empire's not trying to win anymore, she continued. They're trying to make an example. They want us to bleed publicly, loudly, so the outer colonies think this is what happens when you rise. They want martyrs, Kara said. Then we deny them, Amara replied. No open battles. We don't give them a face to shoot at. Instead, we ghost their supply lines, cripple their comms. We make them chase shadows. Dax tapped a flashing node on the map. That'll buy time. But if we want to end this, we have to take the Citadel. The Citadel, the Empire's stronghold in the heart of the capital. Fortress, data center, prison, symbol. The place where decisions were made and lives erased. You're not wrong, Amara said. But we don't storm it. Kara raised an eyebrow. Then what? We hollow it out from the inside. It wasn't as impossible as it sounded. With imperial morale fractured and turncoats emerging in every district, the resistance had gained something more valuable than weapons: access, blueprints, routines, weaknesses. The citadel was powerful, but not impenetrable, especially if attacked from within. The plan unfolded in whispers over the next hours. Amara would lead a team in through old maintenance tunnels beneath the complex. Dax would coordinate outer distractions, diversions meant to pull garrison forces outward. Kara would handle extraction and evac coordination if everything went sideways. Which it will, Dax muttered under his breath. Amara met his eyes. You still with me? Always. The night before the operation, the three of them sat in silence atop a collapsed skyscraper. Wind tore through broken girders, keening low like the ghosts of those who once lived here. Kara passed around a canteen. We've come far. Not far enough, Dax said. Amara didn't speak. After a while, she said quietly, They kill my sister here, right where this building stands. Dax looked away. Kara reached over and placed a hand on her shoulder. I thought if I made enough noise, enough chaos, they'd feel what I felt, Amara said. But that wasn't enough either. You made them see her, Kara said. You gave her voice back to the world. She was just a girl, Amara whispered. She didn't get to fight. She only got to suffer. Dax leaned in. Then we make sure she's the last one who ever had to. At dawn, they moved. Amara, Dax, and 4 others crept into the maintenance tunnels beneath the citadel. The stench of old oil and metal decay clung to everything. Lights flickered sporadically, revealing crumbling signs in a language most citizens no longer read. They advanced in silence. Every step echoed like a gunshot. Time blurred. Minutes became hours. Then they reached the breach point. A maintenance hatch opened into the lower archive levels. Storage centers for imperial records, evidence, history rewritten to fit the regime's needs. Security here was minimal. After all, who would steal the past? Amara slid through first, landing in a crouch behind a pillar. Dax followed. The others fanned out, disabling cameras and setting charges on structural points. But something felt wrong. Too easy. Then they heard it. A click. Dax turned, but too late. The room exploded in motion. From hidden recesses in the ceiling and walls, Vorn assassins dropped, silent, armored, lethal. 2 of the rebels went down instantly. Another fired once before a blade found his throat. Amara and Dax moved as one. She ducked under a blade meant for her head, firing upward into her attacker's chest. Dax spun, tackled one to the ground, crushed his windpipe with a knee. Kara's voice screamed through comms. Ambush. Get out. Too late. The exit sealed. A force field snapped into place over the tunnel hatch. They were trapped. The remaining Vorn circled. A voice boomed from speakers hidden in the walls. Well done, Amara. You led them straight to us. It was Marshal Rivik, the butcher of Kesselin, the man who had ordered the cleansing of her sector, who had smiled on the broadcast while fires burned behind him. You've done our work for us, he continued. But don't worry. You'll be useful still. A public execution always draws a crowd. Dax lunged at the force field. It held. His scream of frustration was drowned in static. Amara didn't move. She stared up at the speaker, then smiled. I was counting on that. Rivik's voice hesitated. What? She tapped her wrist. A countdown appeared. 00:07. 00:06. Dax's eyes widened. What did you? I uploaded everything, she said. The archives. The footage. The prisoner logs. Even your private comms. Rivik's silence was answer enough. You wanted to make me a symbol. Amara whispered. So, I gave you a monument. The walls shuddered. Not from the charges inside, but from above. A sonic boom ripped through the ceiling as rebel aircraft, drones fitted with experimental kinetic rounds, punched holes through the Citadel's upper levels. Fire and dust rained down. Kara's voice returned through the calm. Extraction inbound. Cut left. Follow the breach path. The force field died. Amara and Dax bolted, ducking through rubble as the Citadel collapsed around them. The Vorn, disoriented, scrambled to regroup. Too late. Explosions tore through the archive levels, not planted by the rebels, but by defectors inside the Empire itself. Sabotage from within. The myth of imperial control shattered. They reached the upper levels, where Kara's dropship hovered in a plume of smoke. Ropes dangled. Bullets tore past. Dax hauled Amara up. She slipped once. He caught her wrist. Not this time, he growled. She nodded once and climbed. The moment they were aboard, the ship peeled away. Below, the Citadel crumbled. Its tower split in half like a broken spine. Flames climbed into the heavens. Back at the Resistance command, silence met them. Not fear, not awe, just silence. The kind that comes when hope becomes reality. Amara stood before them, face streaked with blood and soot. It's over, someone whispered. She shook her head. No, it's beginning. Across the galaxy, uprisings lit up on every Outer Rim world. The footage Amara had uploaded spread like wildfire. Enslaved colonies revolted. Governors were overthrown. The Empire didn't fall in one day. But it started here, with her, with a voice they tried to silence, with a girl they tried to erase. And as stars burned beyond the horizon, Amara stepped forward, not as a survivor, but as a leader.